Well, hello, everybody. Brock Morrison here from Brock Morrison, the Short Round Podcast. And I have a guest here, Gabriel Varga.
Yes, that's it. Well, I was very happy to be here.
No, hey, I was just happy to get that last name right. Trust me. Gabriel, anybody that's in karate combat is a thumbs up for me. Matter of fact, we've had Ross Turbo Levine on here, up and coming Gabriel, the Tiger Souza, I think.
Okay, yes.
He's got a fight coming up. 100% love karate combat, but really what this show's about is really, I only ask this 3 questions, no matter who's on. How and why did you get into martial arts? Which pretty much takes up a lot of the time. Where are you at with martial arts now? What's it doing in your life? And then number 3, what is your plans for martial arts in the future? Pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
Nothing hard hitting. Nothing harding,
I can answer those quite easy. So I started in martial arts because my father wanted us to make sure we were going to be able to defend ourselves. When I'm talking about us, I'm talking about my brother, who's 2 years younger than me. He's my cornerman now. And yeah, my dad just went, you guys are like, I think we're 6 and 8 years old or something like that. And he'd been teaching us in the backyard how to throw punches and kicks. But then we got to that stage where he just went, I want you to be there with the best people in the world, the best trainers. So he just put in the effort to find us whoever was the best. And he just said, when you leave the house, when you're a teenager, I want to know that you're safe, that if you ever have to defend yourselves, you can. And, we had to get our black belt. We were told that was not an option. It's something that everybody in the household had to do. I have 3 siblings and they all had to get their black belts as well, even my younger sister. And, if you start when you're like 4 or 5 years old, you can kind of get your black belt in your early teens.
Yeah.
So, she didn't continue after that, but both my other brothers continued in martial arts for quite a while. So yeah, that's the story behind the beginning for me.
Very cool. And what style did you start in? Because I talked to a lot of different people, and usually like somebody will start off in one style like Taekwondo and then move over to karate later, or, did you started the same style and did you just keep going, or did you switch at some point in time?
I've had a lot of switches. We started in karate. That was the beginning for us, kind of like point fighting with some kata and such. And my dad at the same time was trying to teach us more of a boxing style, just boxing gloves, hitting the bag. But the main focus was karate. And then we transitioned as we were doing karate, we were also doing Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu for 2 or 3 years. And then we sort of full-time transitioned into kickboxing. And then a couple of years ago, I went back to jiu-jitsu and started working on some wrestling. So yeah, I've had a decent amount of practice in not all the different martial arts, but a good variety of them now.
Well, it sounds like you have a good foundation, and of course, stand up, and then with some ground game too. So, that's very interesting that you did that. Now, let me ask you a question. Kickboxing and other styles like Muay Thai and stuff like that, would you consider them more of a practical self-defense more than a karate that's just based on like katas and things like that, or even like a point fighting system, which even if you do just know a point fighting system and you had to use it in self-defense against somebody that, maybe was just having a bad day, it would probably help you better than nothing. But what is your views on that?
Yes, absolutely. There are some martial arts that are very practical for self-defense, and there are some that are not practical at all. Like you said, it's going to help you to some extent. But the main thing that I look at when I go, how practical is this martial art, is have you actually got to practice really fighting? And, if you've spent your whole, let's say 20 years of martial arts doing point fighting, there's a good chance you've never been hit in the face hard. And if the first time you end up in a street fight, you happen to get hit in the face and you're not used to it, there's a good chance that's it for you. It's just shock. you're just going, oh, what the heck? I've never experienced that before. So in terms of being prepared for getting hit, any sport, boxing, MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai, certain styles of karate are going to prepare you for that. And I think that's a great way to go about it. Just, if you've done kata your whole life and nothing else, yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily going to go very well for you if you get up against somebody who's a street fighter who knows how to throw a punch. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, I like to ask this question to a lot of people that actually, that are karate practitioners. A lot of people sit there and say, well, kata is kind of useless. I myself personally, because I took a Shotokan, I look at it, and she was majority, teaching katas and things like that, and bunkais and things. But people says, well, kata is useless if you never sit there and really break it down. I personally think that katas are nothing but more than boxing combination, Muay Thai combinations. You just have to learn how to take it out of the kata and switch it over into some kind of combination. Would you think I'm right on that? Or
yeah, well, the kata to the untrained eye, people might not necessarily understand the intricacies of the motion. So I did the Shotokan as well, and initially, you're taught to high block. Okay, I blocked the punch.
Yep.
And then I got a more advanced instructor, and he's like, no, you're not blocking the punch. The first arm blocks the punch, and then you're snapping the arm. And he started demonstrating the actual application of a lot of these. And I went, oh, okay, this makes a little more sense than me just blocking a bat or something like that with my forearm. So yes, I think when you get people who actually know what they're doing with it, it becomes much more applicable. And then, of course, if you take the kata and you actually drill the motions with somebody really attacking you, you don't have to actually have somebody attack you, let's say with a real bat or something. But if you're practicing in a kata to defend an attack with a bat or something, you got to have somebody actually come and swing at you. Because yes, if it would be the equivalent of somebody starting boxing and they only shadow box.
Yeah.
If they only shadow box, they might look good. They might even be pretty good, but they're not going to be as good as they would doing partner drilling. So if you take kata and then you apply partner work, and much of the kata can be done with partners. I know for my black belt test, we had 4 people around us and they were actually attacking us as we demonstrated the kata, much more applicable there.
Yeah. And also like how you sit there and brought, that's a, could be a high block. I've also seen other people where they sit there and said that doesn't even have to just be a block. It actually can be a hammer fist, to something like that. Not all blocks have to just be blocks. It depends on really what you think that it could be used as. So, got my little nerdy question out of the way. But, so let's sit there and say, after what ages did you kind of start going off on your own? And you said that you guys kind of went away from karate and went more into the kickboxing stuff. Was that more appealing to you?
It was it was a very, very slow transition. So let's see, I was doing pretty much full karate, point fighting, and kata until I was probably about 12. We're kind of probably talking like 8 to 12. And then I ended up at a gym where there was more kickboxing at that gym. So I would do, I think, 2 or 3 days a week karate, 2 or 3 days a week kickboxing. And bit by bit, the kickboxing started appealing to me more just because I'd been doing the point fighting and the kata in tournaments, but I just wasn't getting enough of a challenge, I think, at that point anymore. It was honestly a little too easy, and I just wasn't motivated anymore. So then I went, okay, I got to go to the next stage. And I continued with my karate training and my kata, keeping up with the katas, pretty much from like 12 to probably my early 20s. But during that whole time, I wasn't actually fighting in the ring. I was just sort of doing tournaments, full contact tournaments with headgear and such. And then when I got to the point where I was about 20, late 20, I think almost 21, that's when I had my first fight. And then from there, I stopped doing my karate training and would still teach it to the kids. So I was still doing my martial arts programs where I was teaching all that. But yeah, I stopped actual kata classes and such, just because I need to put 6 days a week into making sure I don't get knocked out when I go in the ring.
Yeah, but the thing is too, is even if you were still teaching it, maybe you wasn't personally doing your katas, you still had to teach the katas. So that's still keeping those things kind of fresh in your mind at the same time, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of people tell me, and I agree with it. You have to know so much more to teach than you do actually just go and practice something. Because when somebody asks you a question and they go, oh, well, why am I doing this? Or why not this? You need to be able to actually break down and explain it. Or sometimes you even have like a light bulb that comes on and you're like,
Yeah.
why am I teaching it like that? So you learn a lot when you teach. So I might have actually even gotten better throughout the years of teaching kata. I haven't done it like at the karate combat thing. They asked me to do a karate move for sort of the promo videos. Like I'm 37 now. I stopped doing kata when I was around 25 and stopped teaching it actually around 25, just because I had a kids program and I went, okay, I have to teach the kids groundwork, kickboxing, aikido, karate. And then I went, and now I got to teach them the kata along with all of it. I went, it's too much for kids coming 2 days a week. So I ended up eliminating it. So they said, do something karate style. And I'm like, shoot, I literally have not done a kata in probably 12 years. So they're still there though. They're still there in the sense that if somebody said do, the entry level Taikyaku Shodan or something like that, MP, I mean, I could probably still do it, but I literally have not done one in 12 years. So they asked me to do something and I just went, oh, okay.
You're like, well, I can probably come up with something and nobody would know.
Exactly.
be like, well, it's a different style. You don't know that one. I've been learning that one while you guys were doing something.
I made up my own.
But so 21, you kind of got away from, the point fightings and things like that. And you started getting into the whole kickboxing. How'd your first match go?
First match was an eye opener because I won all my amateur fights. I won, but that was the first one where, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. And I actually finished the fight. And I went, I'm never doing that again. That's what I thought as I left the ring. Never again. Because I was so tired and I didn't get hit. But I mean, I did obviously a couple times, but nothing hard. And I left with a headache and feeling nauseous just because I did not do the road work. I didn't do it. I was so confident in myself, like to the point of not cocky, like I walked around cocky, but I'm like, I'm so good. I don't need to run, because I'd be at the gym with the adults and I would pick them up apart. I had been since I was 16. I'm like, there's no point. Nobody's going to be able to do anything to me. And then like, well, nerves, and you don't perform as well. And so I left, never again. But that only lasted a couple months.
Now, you grew up and was born in Canada, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And do you still live in Canada now, or?
I do. Yes. West Coast, right off Vancouver. I live on Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island.
Okay. And my geography stinks, but that's not too far from like Washington. I mean, like,
no,
it's not like
hop, skip, and a jump, really. I mean, we can fly to Seattle from here, and I think it's 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And then there's ferries that go from Victoria down to Seattle. I think that one takes like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that.
Oh.
So we're pretty much as close as you can be to the States. Okay. We go down to the ocean and we can see the States from the ocean. So it's right there.
Yeah, because I'm in Portland. I mean, not Portland, but Oregon, and I'm like 2 hours away from Washington, which ain't not that far. So I was just wondering. But also, my Muay Thai coach, because I stepped away from doing karate and went into an MMA gym, never to fight, just to train and things like that. He's like, he goes, Muay Thai in Canada is way brutal than it is in the States.
There's a big Muay Thai culture. I'm not sure exactly why there is, but in terms of kickboxing versus Muay Thai, it's the prairie states are very heavy on the Muay Thai. And then over in Ontario as well, it's much bigger. And that was very interesting for me when I was starting off because initially I fought guys from, the province, and then you run through all the province guys and they're like, okay, now all the guys from Calgary and Alberta, all those provinces over there, you have to fight them. And then all of a sudden the fighters style switched from in BC, everybody's more kickboxing, but then over in the prairies, they're more Muay Thai style. So I started fighting all these guys who, hands up and down, tapping, and they had terrible boxing. And basically that was my go-to introduction, because people are like, oh, Gabe, why are your hands so good for a kickboxer? And I went, well, I was fighting all these Muay Thai guys who had no hand defense.
Yeah.
And I look up video footage of them and I'm like, man, these guys, if you stand and kick with them, I might not win. But if I box with them, they don't have a chance. So there are definite strengths in Muay Thai, but there are weaknesses. And for some reason, people up here love it. They love that martial art.
Yeah. So you was able to probably make your boxing skills more better because you were fighting these Muay Thai guys. And then you also have to kind of set up your kicks a little bit different for a Muay Thai fighter. So if they're not having really good hand defense, then man, just, set up a good combo and then with lay it in with a kick, you had them been striking pretty good with them.
Yes. Yeah. It's just a style difference for them. If you go into a fight and you fight the way somebody wants to, so if I throw a round kick against them with no setup, they're going to catch it and they're going to sweep me. Yep. And that's all there is to it. And I'm not going to win. But like you said, you throw a hand combo once and you throw the hand combo again, then you get them nervous. You throw it a third time and then you kick on the end. Well, now they're not catching the kick anymore because they're too worried about the hands. So it's not a perfect method. It's not as easy as I'm making it sound, but that was more or less the game plan against those guys. Plus, utilize the spinning techniques from the karate background, because they never train to defend spinning techniques, and those throw people off. As much as some gyms will say, those don't work. Spinning techniques do work. Karate does work. You just have to apply it in the right way.
Yeah. Now let me go a little bit forward from there. How long did it take you when you started your kickboxing career to? How long was your amateur career for?
Amateur career 2006 to 2009. So I had 4 years where I was being consistent with my fighting. I only had 15 amateur fights before turning pro, but 15 fights in the 4 years was a decent amount. Staying active for the most part. I had a back injury that was really bad where I missed 8 months of training, but aside from that, I was active throughout that whole time.
Yeah, so it sounds like you was staying active, but you wasn't overdoing it either.
No, I'm not like I've always been ever since I started. You see people who are like, oh, I fought 3 times this month or 18 times this year. And I always went, no, I'm going to fight and I will not take another fight. I'll never take a fight ever in my life without at least 6 weeks notice. I could have come off a first round KO and been like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm good. I did have one time. I shouldn't, that's a lie. I had one time in my career where I fought back-to-back weekends, and it only happened to work out because, I committed to one fight and then somebody else was like, oh, we got another one for you. And I was double booked. So I did one time do back-to-back weeks, and I scored TKOs in both of those really fast. But for the most part, I always went, I want to fight. I want a break of at least a couple of weeks, and then I want another 6 weeks. Not so much for my body to prep up, but to prepare for the opponent, because every opponent's different, and I never wanted to go into a fight not being prepared for whatever the guy might bring.
Well, also at the same time too, you said that you're 38 now, right?
37. Yeah.
37. Okay. You're still keeping your career going pretty good. I mean, it doesn't seem like you've had a lot of injuries. So you're able to sit there and probably keep that career going a little bit longer than most.
Yes. And just like in Thailand, the fighters stop, most of them before their, I was going to say 30s, but some of them, geez, even in their early 20s. But look at the abuse they've taken through their teens, and even when they're 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of fights. You have 100, 200 fights by the time you're 20. So you're going to retire. Yeah, you're going to retire much earlier. Whereas for me, 45 fights over, since 2006. So
Okay.
it's not too bad on the body. If I fight 2 or 3 times a year, there's lots of rest time for me, and I want to stop, or I want to stop when I want to stop, not because I'm forced to stop.
Yeah.
And
Or
I make
you're,
that decision. Yeah, it won't be because my body is hopefully broken down. I want to finish, kind of like you see George St. Pierre. You know, he stopped fighting, and he's constantly posting videos of himself training and staying in shape. And if anything, he looks even better than he used to. And that's what I want. I want to be done fighting and then be like, okay, now I'm moving on to the next stage of my life where I'm going to get in better shape than I ever was, just because now I don't have to focus 100% on martial arts. I can start adding other things in and be more creative. So just health is so important to me.
And you're married also, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, you know, you want to be able to sit there and enjoy the rest of your life with your wife and things, you know, not have to worry about having a walker or a cane and stuff.
100%. And, you know, something that people have told me, a lot of my friends, since they were in their late 20s, they're like, it's time to have kids. And I'm like, oh, what's the rush? And they're like, well, I want to be able to, you know, run with my kids and do things with my kids and have enough energy to keep up with them. And I went, man, if I'm in my, you know, I might start having a family next year or something, but if I'm in my late 30s or my 40s, early 40s, and I have a, you know, an 8-year-old running around and I can't keep up with them at 44 or 46, that just sounds sad to me. I'm just like, my gosh, at 46, I better be in almost the best shape of my life. Like my dad last week, I was asking him, and my mom just turned 65. So like technically seniors. I'm like, oh, how do you feel? He's like, man, I feel the same as when I was, you know, 40, aside from the fact that for him, he's had a lot of injuries, like neck, he's had his neck fused and rotator cuff ripped and stuff. But aside from that, he's just like, he wakes up every day. He works out every day, 365 days a year. So yeah, that's the motivation for me as well. You know, I want to stay in shape so that when I have kids, I'm not, you know, bent over and hurt when I'm 40, which I shouldn't be.
Yeah. Trust me, I understand that. I'm 45 now, have a 5-year-old, and I actually went paralyzed from the neck down and had to have 4 vertebrae fused, because what happened is I broke my neck and my vertebrae were crushed, but it was crushing my spinal cord and my nervous system for 7 years, and I didn't know it. And then one day I just went paralyzed from the neck down, had to have the surgery. And I mean, even now, almost 9 years later, I'm still recovering from it, because 7 years worth of just smashing your spinal cord and your nervous system takes time. Just takes a lot of time. So, you know, good for your dad on that. And I understand about, you know, I got a 5-year-old that probably sleeps like 3 hours a night and she runs everywhere else, you know. But so let's go ahead and get into more. You know, you went your amateur career was about that long. Then you started getting into what? You was in Bellator for how long?
Well, Bellator, 2017 was my debut, and my last fight was in 2020, but I was under contract with them until 2021. And just with the pandemic, I missed out on a lot of fights with them. That was unfortunate because they were a great promotion, but just, you know, everybody dealt with lots of hard things. So yeah, I had about 4 years with them.
Okay, for some reason my dyslexia kicked in and it flipped it around. You was in Glory before
Glory
Bellator
as well. Yes, Glory was 2013 to 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think both of them were 4 years.
Yeah, it switched around in my brain. I wanted to ask you the Glory one first, but my brain's like, we're gonna go ahead and talk about Bellator first. So you was almost kind of into the prime of Glory right around there somewhat, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were 100% in their prime. They were pretty much in their prime when they launched. They launched, I believe, in 2011 under a different banner. It wasn't Glory, it was Golden Glory or something like that. So yeah, 2011 and 12, they were sort of going up against K1, and I was signed with K1 at the time, and then K1 ended up folding. They put a lot of money into it, but just didn't have a good business plan. And then Glory just exploded in terms of putting on enormous events. They had all the best fighters, and that pretty much continued I'd say until maybe a couple years after I left the promotion. And then unfortunately, kind of like what happened with me, I went, you know what, there's better offers on the table. And as much as they were a fun promotion to fight for, when somebody's offering you 50, 60, 100% more, you got to go, especially for myself when, guys like Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira and just the pedigree of fighters that have gone to other promotions now and become stars there. They were all with Glory first. But yeah, Glory just, for some reason, I don't know why, they didn't have the thought process to hold on to these potential stars, and they lost a lot of people. But yeah, in 2013 to 2016, they were big. They were building well, and it was the spot to be.
Yeah, and then I remember when I had Ross Levine on here, he said he had in 2019 he had the knockout of the year for Glory, and he said, man, he was all ready to get his next fight on, and he said that's when the pandemic hit, and it just kind of dispersed Glory, and he goes, now I guess they're trying to work their way back up to getting promotions and stuff going again. So that kind of stinks.
Does. Yeah, it's too bad because there was just so much potential, and as I understand it, so much money spent on trying to get everything going. But yeah, it's not the way I would have run the promotion, some of the things they did, but they tried, and hopefully they'll bounce back, because it's so nice. Like for myself, what would I have done without Glory? I would have had to go and find another spot in the world to compete with, or there was just nobody else, right? You want to be on the biggest stage. It's nice to have a goal where you're just like, this is where I want to be. And the MMA fighters have it, they go, oh, I want to be with Bellator, or I want to be with ONE FC, or I want to be with UFC. But for kickboxers, it's been hard because you have your eyes set on a promotion, and it's like, for me, I wanted to be a K1 fighter, and then all of a sudden I get one fight with them, and then they're gone. And then lots of other guys would be like, oh, I want to be a Glory fighter, and then okay, now Glory, they're kind of there, but they're not really. So now people are kind of eyeing ONE FC. But it's nice to have a consistent promotion that's around where fighters can sort of hinge their dreams on being there one day.
Yeah, I had speaking of K1, I had Ray Sufa on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, me and him had a fun time, and me and him probably could have kept going all day just sitting there talking stories. But yeah, his K1 and then his Pride and different things were exciting. So, let's get into just a touch on a little bit on your Bellator, and how was it fighting in Bellator? How was it making the switch over from kickboxing into an MMA world? And give me one good story about Bellator.
Bellator was great. First of all, I'd been with Glory for a while. I went to Bellator. I went, oh my gosh, this is a promotion run really well, very professional, very likable people working there. They had everybody just seemed really down to earth, and I loved it. And I actually thought I would finish my career with Bellator. That was my plan, assuming they would have kept their kickboxing around. They dissolved that for reasons that we won't get into right now. But they were a great promotion. Within there, I'm trying to think what's a funny story. I mean, I learned a lot when I was there. I went over and fought in Europe. My first fight, lost, controversial, but lost. And I remember being in the fight, being like, okay, the punch is coming, and it would hit me, and then I'd be like, block, and jet lag. I learned about jet lag. It just takes you for a loop. So yeah, I learned about that. It was an eye opener. I went over there feeling so good, warm up, felt so good, and then got in the ring and just like, oh, I should be getting ready for bed. Like, I'm so tired. So yeah, they were a great promotion, and I lucked out. Like, after that, when I wanted to go over to Europe for fights, I'd say, guys, I need to be there a week early instead of 3 days early, and they'd be like, no problem. And they just eat the expense of the extra hotels and or extra hotel nights, and just very, very crisp, very polished, and I think the big difference is I felt like they cared. Okay. Whereas I've heard the fighters in the UFC be like, you don't really feel like they care unless you're their star. Yeah. Their star, they'll care until you're not the star anymore, and then they don't care. But I felt with Bellator, even at the end, I'm like, oh, hey guys, what's up? are we doing any more kickboxing? And I actually get messages back, and they actually explained to me why we're not doing kickboxing anymore. And it wasn't just, ghosting somebody. So I felt like there was a lot of care, and I would 100% recommend anybody who's like, oh, I don't know where to go. If you're looking for somewhere, Bellator. Yeah, they take care of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked to different fighters before, and this always comes up, UFC's the biggest. Doesn't mean it's the best. It's just the biggest.
Yeah.
You got the more name recognition, doesn't mean the Bellator, PFL, there's so many different good ones out there. I mean, just because you're the biggest doesn't mean you're the best. You're just the biggest, well known. Yeah. And so what did you do from your Bellator time up? Because that was what, 2018, you said?
When I signed with Bellator?
Or when you was done with Bellator?
When I was done. I had my last fight in 2020.
Okay.
So not too long ago. And then I was under contract until 2021. So as soon as my contract officially expired, I started going, okay, do I even want to fight anymore? That was a big question. I went,
really?
this is not the finish I wanted, but I kind of lost a bit of motivation in the sense, like, I don't know what to do now. So I thought about it, but then I went, I don't want that to be my last fight, kind of like having to leave because of the pandemic, let it beat me down. And 2 years off is a long time, especially when you start going, oh, okay, in the fight world, and potentially at my age, when people keep bringing up you're getting old for an athlete. I don't feel old, but all of that, you just kind of like, oh, should I keep going? So I reached out to a couple promotions that I was interested in. The two main ones being Karate Combat, because I saw the excitement there and the style difference, where I went, I like this style. And then ONE FC. Okay. And I reached out to ONE FC. I talked with them, but they were just slow. They were so slow getting stuff done. And I've talked to people who are under contract with ONE FC who've been sitting around waiting for literally years for their fights. And there's like, we want to fight, we want to fight, we want to fight. And if you're not one of the people that they want to push, you don't get it. So between the slow response and hearing that, I went, I want to be somewhere where they're excited to have me. And Karate Combat was excited. They sent out a TV crew here. They got the video footage. They did the pre-build-up sort of stuff. And then when I got there, as they said to me, they're like, we're going to roll out the red carpet for you. We're going to make sure that we have extra promotion time with you. And, we're going to sit you down, film some episodes with Wonder Boy. And, I just felt like they were excited to have me there, which is nice because, I've put a lot of time in throughout my career, and I getting to the end and I go, I want to be somewhere where I'm excited to be there. They're excited to have me. And it just creates more of a great dynamic.
Well, that kind of brings us into the really the next question, because I sit there and said, usually the first question is the biggest one. The second question. So, you just talked about a little bit, but what is karate doing in your life now? You've seen, some people sit there and said it's helped them, make decisions. A lot of them use their karate training that they had to use for their mind to help them with, everyday situations and things like that. So how do you use karate also kind of like outside of the ring, but also what is karate doing for you now at the same time? We know that you're in Karate Combat and, maybe touch a little bit on, a little bit of your fights while you're in there. And please explain.
I mean, most people know about my fight career, so I don't need to go too much into that. It's just, I train every day, and when fight camp starts, I push. But outside of that, the interesting thing for me has always been how I just want everything in my life to revolve around martial arts.
Yeah.
Every aspect of my work to revolve around it, just because I love it so much. And my dad told me a long time ago, he's like, find a job that doesn't feel like work. Find something where you can get up and be excited. And I wake up every day and, I work on my YouTube channel where I'm teaching martial arts and I love it. Or I go over and I teach a kids program and I love it. Or I do a lot of Zoom privates right now where I meet up with people and we work on their technique or helping them prepare for an upcoming opponent or a fight. And that's just so exciting to me. So that's, martial arts is pretty much my whole day from when I wake up to when I go to bed. But in terms of how it's affected me as well, it's given me almost like an unparalleled confidence in myself that a lot of people don't have, but I wish they did.
Mm-hmm.
Because ever since I was young, I was taught, a set of morals. And that was a lot from my dad and my mom, like really instilling them, but they were also tied in with a lot of the martial arts values. So I've had that. And with those, and then the confidence that I have in those values, like how important they are, and feeling like they're part of who I am, the way I interact with others and try to be a good person, it presents a very, just kind of I'm very happy when I wake up with what I'm able to do in the day. And it just allows me to be a confident person. And that's a very nice thing. It's a very nice thing to be able to wake up and be like, I'm happy today with who I am and what I'm going to do today and all of that. And then with that and martial arts, I've been able to say no to things which would have been damaging to my life. So drinking, drugs, people trying to, persuade me when you're younger, like do this, or let's go and, graffiti that, or all the things that you don't need to do in your life that hurt others, but don't really benefit you. All of that, because of martial arts, I've been able to say no. And I don't worry about peer pressure, and I don't worry about what other people think about me. As long as I know I'm doing the right thing and I'm confident in what I'm doing. And that's 100% I credit it to martial arts. Just been a lifetime of all the values being instilled. And I think that's the most important part of martial arts is, being confident in who you are and being happy with who you are.
Most definitely. So with your karate combat career, you've had how many fights with them right now?
Only one. I just had my debut. Yeah, the debut was 5 weeks ago, I believe.
I just don't know why I was sitting there thinking 2, but my brain's not as good as it used to be. It wasn't even that great then. So that's the way it works. I always also like to bring this up. Do you ever have to deal with anything like depression or anything, or does the karate aspect in your life and training and stuff like that, does that help kind of push that stuff back a little bit?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer this question. Then I actually got to run. I'm sorry, Brock. I got to get to the gym. I have a trainer waiting for me.
Yes.
But it's a perfect way to finish. No, I have never suffered from depression. I've never had any depression. Even when the worst things have happened, which in my life maybe are not that bad compared to other people. But, you imagine you spend your whole life working towards being a K1 fighter and it's taken away from you. And I spend my whole life, then, okay, I'm going to be a Glory champion. And then Glory doesn't want you anymore, or not, at least for the tiny amount of money. And then I finally get to Bellator, become the champion. And then they're like, oh, we're not doing kickboxing anymore. All of those could have easily been setbacks, along with lots of other things in my life where people get depressed and bummed out. It's never happened to me. I always look forward and go like, okay, I'm not with Bellator now, but there's a new stage of my life that I can move forward to. And let's only focus on the positive. And I think, again, martial arts has taught me a lot of that. You leave the gym, you have a hard session, you have a day where you get beat up a little bit, and do you leave all, I'm so bad, I'm terrible, this is a terrible sport for me? Or do you go, I have something to work on, I'm excited to work on it, I'm going to get better. And just years of having that positive mindset and instilling it, I think has made a world of difference for me. And I guess I'm really blessed that I've never suffered from any depression, because it's very nice being waking up happy every day.
Well, that's really good. And yeah, I have taken a little bit more of your time than we actually discussed. So Gabriel, I really do appreciate you being on. And one of the things is about this podcast is I want people to understand that martial arts isn't always what they think it is in their head. Let people get to know people that might not even know who you are, to sit there and get a little insight on you. And man, I really appreciate it. And it's been exciting. And maybe one day you'll come back on again. And
I'd love to.
Just before I let you go, just tell everybody where they can reach you at and things like that.
Gabriel Varga official across all the platforms. The main one is YouTube. I'm on the others, but I don't put a lot of love and effort into it. I put everything into the YouTube channel. So if you want the good information, that's where you should go.
And it's a beautiful YouTube channel, man. You have a great day, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much, Brock. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.